talking to us. Neil Shah is Chief De-Stressing Officer at the Stress Management Society. When you hear a story like that, Neil, what do you think? Do you think you need to put things in place? You need to have coping mechanisms? Or do you recognise what Maria says? You know, when you're in it, it's hard to see anything.
Absolutely, and what she's expressed there is something that's actually relatively common, that a lot of people find themselves at a stage in their life where they do feel overwhelmed, where they do feel completely out of control, and there's very little they can do. The challenge, Eddie, is that most people don't recognise it until it's already too late. We're already quite far down the line with kind of the experience of having with stress or with poor mental health, and at that point we can feel particularly like disempowered and don't have the ability to be able to take action to do something about it. It's about being able to recognise it early and being able to understand that, you know, stress does serve a purpose, but it was only ever intended to be a short-term intervention. We're not designed to live in that state.
But if it's on the spectrum, you don't have a choice.
No, absolutely. We don't have a choice about the fact that there's pressures and demands that are being made of us that we might struggle with. What we do have a choice with is what we do about it. And that's the thing. It's the definition of power. If we look at the word power in the dictionary, it's the ability to do or act. Now, I know sometimes it feels like we can't do anything, but no matter what's going on, no matter how bad our experience is, there's always something we can do. And the moment we step into that space of, I'm empowered to take action to do something about it, it's a completely different experience than when we're a victim where we have no power to do something.
Yeah. If it's about work, if it's about a kind of superficial pressure, that stress that we place upon ourselves, achieving a target or whatever, if it's like two of my guests tonight about your child dying, and learning how to move on, understand, not blame yourself, feel guilty and all of that, that's more challenging, surely.
It is, absolutely. And, I'm not suggesting that we can kind of, dismiss it in the same way we would with a work challenge, but there's a process. And obviously there's time to kind of, to grieve and to express the emotions. I'm not for a second suggesting that we kind of bypass that phase. I think that's an important part of the process. But actually being able to get to the point where you have been able to sit and express the emotion and then look at how do we then move on. And I think that's important because often, I'm definitely one of those people when I feel some kind of pain or discomfort, how do I fix this? I'm a bloke. I want a solution. I want to solve this. I don't want to feel like this anymore. And that's useful to a degree, but there are times where it's important to be able to allow yourself the capacity to work through that. And even if that means talking to a professional that can help to put that into some kind of perspective, to give you a platform to be able to express yourself, and then over time get to the point where you're ready to move on and emotionally reinvest in taking your life forward.
No, I've got a lot of mates who absolutely would agree with you. And one of the things that we resist a lot in this country is talking to experts. In America they do it, they openly they talk about, I think Brad Pitt has just done an interview talking about being an emotional retard and talking to a therapist and whatever. I don't know why, but I don't think we're quite there yet. But if anybody has ever had any, I don't need to know the issue, right? But if anybody has talked to a therapist about anything that they're going through, just explain to me how it worked, whether it worked for you, whether you had to go through 2 or 3 to find the one that worked for you. And if you, as you just heard there from Neil, that talking is the way, particularly for us blokes. Neil Shah there, Chief De-Stressing Officer at the Stress Management Society. Good evening to you. This is Drive Time on BBC Radio London. Time now 5:45. Here is the BBC Radio London Travel from Billy Reeves.